I'd like to call. Okay, great. It is 6:31 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting of the Community Development Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand, but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also, please be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. All public comments are limited to 3 minutes. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Folks, please call the roll.
Hayden Tomposi.
Here.
Ryard.
Here.
Loudon.
Here.
Spring.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
All right, our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on our agenda tonight? Please note public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Seeing none, great. We do not have any items coming forward from the Planning Commission or public presentations. Therefore, we will move into our action items. Our first action item this evening is for the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Yes, thank you. Draft minutes of the December 10th Community Development Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Great. Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll take a recommendation. Ben's not here, so. Great, thank you. Well, he is here, just, yeah. Our next action item this evening is for consideration of a contract award for appraisal and acquisition services for the Johnson Drive Street Rehabilitation Project from Stephanie Boyce.
This item is in conjunction with our Johnson Drive Street Rehabilitation Project. As part of this project, we need to acquire approximately 23 commercial movements or right of way. And because it's a big undertaking, we decided to put out a request for proposals for appraisal and acquisition services. So we advertised that.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was on. We advertised that in November. Yes, so we advertised that in November, looking to identify qualified firms to help us with these appraisals and acquisition services. This is also a federally funded project, and because it is, all activities must comply with the Uniform Act and KDOT guidelines. So the tasks are going to include coordination and communication with property owners, right-of-way research, appraisals and offer services, acquisition and negotiations of the easements or deeds, preparation, recordation, and condemnation if it needs to get to that point. We received 5 proposals. I listed the firms below. Each of them did demonstrate strong qualifications and experience, making the selection hard and highly competitive. And through the review process, Skeens Consultant Services emerged as particularly well suited to meet the needs of our city and the project. So each of the proposals included hourly rates for services based on the hourly rate for Skeens, the number of parcel, the estimated fee is around $89,000. We have budgeted approximately $1 million in total for the appraisal and acquisition services. So that also includes the offers to be made, not just his services. And so we recommend awarding the contract to Skeens Consultant to provide the appraisal and acquisition services for the city. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah. Any questions, comments? Yeah, Debbie.
What stood out with this firm?
He has about 30 years experience doing this. He is local here in Johnson County. His qualifications and references came back highly rated. Everybody who worked with him said that he was wonderful, very communicative, very well versed in communicating with the property owners. He's also an attorney, so he has that experience, has that under his belt to help with the legal aspect of it.
Thank you.
All right. Recommendation.
Consent.
Sure. Yep. Our third action item this evening is for consideration of a contract award for on-call inspection services, also from Stephanie Boyce.
Great. So around the same time that we put out our request for qualifications for the engineering services, we also put out a request for qualifications for inspection services. And so currently right now, inspection services have been awarded on a project by project basis. And with this method, it worked relatively well. And we felt that executing an on-call inspection services contract similar to the engineering services would provide a greater efficiency and potential cost savings for the city. So in October, we advertised the RFQ for on-call inspection services. And looking to identify firms to assist us with right-of-way permit projects, street construction, reconstruction, overlay projects, our stormwater rehabilitation projects, any new subdivision construction if needed, bridge construction and inspection, and creek channel repair and rehabilitation. We received 8 proposals, and each firm did demonstrate strong qualifications, experience, and expertise. But 2 firms emerged particularly well suited to meet our needs, and that was GBA and Pfefferkorn. They distinguish themselves by highlighting specialized skills and resources that align with our priorities and needs, and that includes things such as the necessary certifications, training, collaboration, communication, timeline, and budget-conscious execution. So after careful consideration, we recommend selecting GBA and Pfefferkorn as our on-call inspections. And they both bring that innovation and specialized expertise that best meets our needs and are looking into the future that will best meet those future needs for the city. So any questions?
We'll go Cheryl and then Debbie.
I just have a question. Have we used them in the past?
Yes, both of them have been used in the past for.
Okay. And
for-
about how many inspections do we have a year in these categories, or is it probably hard?
Generally aligned with our projects. So we generally have our CARS project. We have our street reconstruction project that we do. And then upcoming, we'll have the Rock Creek project. I would say probably 3 to 4. We haven't utilized inspectors for like the right-of-way permits. Those are generally done in-house. But we put that in the proposal or in the request in case we do need to utilize them for items like that in the future.
Thank you.
Yep, Debbie.
We've just had real good luck in the past with George Butler and Associates, and they have been a real asset to this city. So I'm
Yep.
glad that you're choosing.
Thank you.
Anything further? Otherwise, I will take a recommendation.
Recommend we take it to council consent.
Great, thank you. And our next action item this evening is for consideration of a contract for Rock Creek Channel design. I'm assuming also from Stephanie.
It might be.
Yeah,
Is-
so I gave Brent the night off because he's been working 12-hour shifts the last couple days, so. And this is to authorize a contract for design for the Rock Creek stormwater improvements to Olson in an amount not to exceed $975,385. In September of 2022, the city approved a task order with Olson to conduct a preliminary project study or PPS of the Rock Creek Channel from Woodson Street to Maple. The PPS was a requirement for submission to Johnson County Stormwater Management Program to receive matching funds for the design and construction phase of this project, with the county offering up to 50% of a cost share. The PPS was completed in April of 2024 and identified alternative 3 as the preferred solution for the improvements, and the city successfully secured SMP funding for the project, both design and construction. So in November of last year, city identified or issued the RFP to our on-call engineering firms. And that was Olson and GBA to provide professional stormwater related engineering services for the design of Rock Creek Stormwater Improvement Project. And I listed kind of below what that scope included. After reviewing the 2 proposals, both firms did demonstrate significant experience in stormwater design and presented qualified teams. However, staff is recommending the contract be awarded to Olson Engineering for the following reasons. So they are familiar with the project. They have an in-depth understanding that they gain through their work on the PPS and provide a strong foundation for effective and efficient project delivery. They have a team approach. They presented a solid project team, clear understanding of the scope, and a well-defined project approach tailored to our needs. They have the consistency and efficiency by leveraging their work on the PPS, and they can seamlessly transition into the design phase, reducing the project startup time and ensuring continuity. And they have an in-depth knowledge of the 2D modeling that is now coming up into the new stormwater design. So they're gonna incorporate that 2D modeling into these improvements with the recommended channel and culvert improvements. So based on those factors, we're recommending entering into contract with Olson for the design of Rock Creek improvements.
Great. Yep. So I know some of us, I think, were here when we talked about 2D modeling in connection with the PPS, but maybe not everyone. So could you just weigh in a little bit on explaining that and how it's good for future proofing on the project?
Yeah, so, and I'm still coming up to speed on 2D modeling. Let me grab some notes. Let's see, yeah, so Johnson County, they've been developing new models for the Rock Creek watershed, using the Army Corps of Engineers hydraulic engineering center river analysis system model 2D modeling. This new 2D modeling approach aims to provide a better understanding of the complex hydrologic and hydraulic factors contributing to street and building flooding in the Rock Creek watershed. So it's just to help us better identify what's going on within that watershed. I think it gives a better understanding of the flooding and what's going on. So incorporating that into this design, I think will help give us a better product for construction.
And it should better account for higher rain events. Is that right? I see
It
Laura
does.
nodding.
It's
Yeah.
more attuned to, although I will tell you that it is still,
Not always perfect.
well, the data is still old. It's not as old as the previous modeling data,
Yeah.
but it is still relatively old in that world. And so that will have to continue to evolve. But this is better than, I think it's HECRAS modeling is what it has been in the past, to account for some of the higher rainfall, the frequency and higher rainfall events that we're seeing as a result of some of the climate change.
And this is the best available in
This is
terms
the best
of
available at
this
this time.
corridor.
Mhm.
Okay.
I also wanted to just comment, because that's a pretty hefty price. So we've thrown out a couple of big dollar amounts, and I should have jumped in on the Johnson Drive acquisition. Both the Johnson Drive project and this Rock Creek Channel project, I think you'll remember there's about a $9 million price tag on it. We know we can't cash flow those, so we know we will have to look at some debt financing. we'll be coming back to you all with Mr. Kimmel sometime here in this first quarter to look at financing. The good news on the stormwater side is that there's sufficient dollars currently available in the Stormwater Utility Fund to proceed with this design without having to issue that debt. So we'll be looking at those options. It shouldn't be a surprise to any of us, but, and we have with the STP funding on the Johnson Drive project and CARS funding and SMAC funding on this project, a lot of other people's money coming into these. But 14 million and 9 million are just big numbers for us in any given budget year.
Yeah, and this design is eligible for up to 50% cost share. So if the design was 975,000, so we'll get 50% of that back through this grant.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, recommendation, kind of think with the dollar amount.
With council.
Take it to council consent. Okay. All right. Our fifth action item this evening is for interlocal agreement with Johnson County and Prairie Village, also from Stephanie Boyce.
Thank you. So we are working on the design for the 2025 CARS project. That's 63rd Street from Knoll Avenue to Rowe Avenue. This is a joint project with the cities of Mission and Prairie Village, and it's been approved by Johnson County for CARS funding. And that funds up to 50% of a project construction and construction inspection. In recent years, some of the projects have seen a reduction in order to stretch the dollars further within the county. So this year, I think they dropped our funding a little bit below that 50%. So the proposed improvements for this include full depth reconstruction, 3-inch mill and overlay, new pavement markings, spot replacement of curb gutter, sidewalks, stormwater, and ADA ramps. This interlocal agreement outlines the purpose, project financing for design services and project administration. Construction is estimated to begin in spring of 2025. The preliminary total project cost is $998,734. That's exclusive of easements. These numbers are still changing as this is only an estimate. So depending on how the bids come back, once we bid that, these can change a little bit, but this is a general idea of what those costs are associated with. But this interlocal agreement is there's no cost associated with that until we put the project out to bid. So this is just the interlocal between the county, the city, and Prairie Village.
Yep, Debbie.
We have a breakdown of costs on the easements.
I don't think there's very many easements on this, and generally for projects like this, we ask for donations, and we 99% of the time get those donated.
By like us or whom?
Oh, by
Donate.
the property owner. So a lot of times for projects like this, we will need either stormwater easements or sidewalk easements, just as part of the project, when we build or reconstruct those items.
Take a recommendation.
Move to consent.
Great, thank you. And our next action item this evening is for consideration of a contract award for pavement striping, also from Stephanie Boyce.
Sure. So we're looking for approval of the contract with Heartland Traffic Services for pavement markings and miscellaneous miscellaneous streets throughout the city. So annually, we try to put out a bid for pavement markings that aren't included in any of the reconstruction, mill and overlay, or CARS projects. You'll see some of the streets will have faded lines, stop bars, and those sorts of items. So we put this out to bid. in the past, we've met with manufacturers to discuss the appropriate type of pavement markings, and the city moved to using MMA methylcrylate. Man, these are big words. Is recommended for these types of applications. The MMA is used for the striping, and then a thermoplastic is used for the stop bars and the crosswalks. So we have two different types. Listed below are the areas that we're looking at striping. So we have Lamar and 61st, the crosswalk there, making that high visibility crosswalk. And then striping on Martway, Woodson to Broadmoor, Roland Drive, Johnson Drive to Shawnee Mission Parkway, 61st Street, Metcalf to Broadmoor, and Broadmoor Martway to 61st. So we put that out to bid. We received two bids, one from Heartland Traffic, who was submitted the lowest and most responsive bid at $85,000. So we're looking at entering into a contract with them to start work in spring. They just need some temperatures that are a little bit higher than we have right now.
So, and maybe no snow on the ground. Would
Yeah.
be helpful. All right. Any questions or comments? Everyone?
Mary, could I jump in?
Please.
I just wanted to thank you, Stephanie and Brent, for this item in particular. You know, we both know I've been enthusiastic about certain streets that need some marking, so I'm happy to see this. Thanks very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Take a recommendation.
Move to consent.
Great. Love it. All right, Stephanie, I think you're off the hook. Our next action item this evening is for consideration of an amendment to section 500.034 AA of Mission's Municipal Code related to the regulation of accessibility for buildings and facilities from Brian Scott.
Yeah, we have several code items we're gonna bring to you tonight. I know like Kalen Bird, our building official, handle the first one, then I'll handle the next two. There you are.
All right, thank you, council. So this amendment, essentially, is to, I guess, give the how or not the how, but the when to make a building, accessible. There are the ADA, federal ADA guidelines, that typically comply with, require the compliance of general areas. But we, after the adoption of 2018, and our original amendment to remove chapter 11 of the IBC, it became apparent that the when to make something accessible, especially with multifamily dwellings, we kind of missed the allotment of units and things like that. So building code and accessibility, or the A117, they kind of go hand in hand. The building code requires the when, the A117 tells you how to make it accessible. So basically we were just trying to put the when back into our building code so that moving forward with the code review, we have the when to make something accessible, especially with our multifamily projects coming down the line.
Great. All right. Any questions or comments? No, I'll take a recommendation.
This one feels like consent to me.
Sure. All right, great. Consent. Alrighty. Our eighth action item this evening is for consideration, thank you, of adoption of the Johnson County Environmental Sanitary Code 2025 edition, also from Brian Scott and Caitlin.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Johnson County has a sanitary code in place. It was first adopted in 2005. And it models the state sanitary code, which is administered by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And the sanitary code primarily pertains to sewage treatment, and then swimming pools, waste disposal, water wells, So it really kind of governs disposal of wastewater in areas where there is no sewer district to speak of. So areas where Johnson County wastewater doesn't necessarily serve as a sewer district, primarily rural areas of the county. And it speaks to systems for handling wastewater from developments that are built in rural areas, or wells that are built to serve those rural areas, sewage treatment and pre-treatment from manufacturing facilities that use a lot of water as part of the manufacturing process and need to pre-treat it before they put it into the sewer system. All those things are addressed in the code, as well as swimming pools. That kind of leads me to the second item on the agenda tonight for myself. So Johnson County wastewater has updated their code. So they have a 2025 edition that's in place now. And they've asked us to adopt it. And so the question becomes, why are we adopting this? It doesn't really relate to us too much. We actually have a handful of properties in the city, mostly on Dearborn, that are in septic tanks. And so this code does govern septic tanks. And there's really no regulation per se. There's no inspection process or anything. But when those properties come up for sale, like someone we know who had a property near there that recently came up for sale, the real estate agent is obligated by the ordinance, the county ordinance, to report if it has a septic tank. So that triggers an inspection process, and they'll go out there and inspect it, and those repairs that need to be made, those repairs have to be completed before the sale's finalized. So that's kind of the trigger mechanism for this enforcement. But they've asked that all the cities in Johnson County adopt it as well, and it's kind of a good tool to have in our pocket. So we are amending our current code, which adopted the 2005 edition to reflect the 2025 edition.
I just have a clarifying question. So not much has changed. It sounds like this is mostly just to make it clear, like who can enforce that when things trigger versus not.
The biggest change with the code is I mentioned pools, aquatic, they took that out and they made that a standalone code. And then they've made some provisions around wells and some other kind of administrative type things, just to kind of bring it up to new standards. Standards are 20 years old now, so they're kind of updating it. But for the septic tanks, nothing really new.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll take a recommendation. Okay, great. Consent. And our final action item this evening is for consideration of adoption of the 2025 Johnson County Aquatic Health Code, also from Brian Scott.
Okay, so as I mentioned, the Aquatic Health Code was a part of the 2005 Sanitary Code. And with the adoption of the 2025 Sanitary Code, they've removed the Aquatic Code and made that a standalone code. So they're asking all the cities to adopt this code as well. This code really pertains to public pools. So private pools that are behind somebody's home are excluded from this code. It's just the public pools, which in our case would be our two municipal pools, as well as pools and apartment complexes. Those are primary HOAs. I think we have a couple homeowners associations that have a community pool. They again have kind of updated some standards around, the balancing of chemicals, installation of equipment, some life safety matters. So it's all pretty standard. We have not really been inspecting or regulating public pools. We've always kind of referenced it to the county. So we'll still do that. It's a little more their purview than it is ours. But we're just actually adopting this code to reflect that. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell.
Great. Quite a bunch. Yeah.
To consent.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting stuff, I know.
Yeah. Thank you both. And that concludes our action items. We do not have any discussion items this evening, but before we adjourn, Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for the Community Development Committee?
Yes, I think I would echo what I've heard many of you say and the public, and that our Public Works Department once again knocked it out of the park in terms of getting things cleared. They do work 12-hour shifts round the clock. This was one heck of a storm. And we still have work to do, getting intersections and corners and other things sort of cleared up. So the work is not done, especially with the temperatures, but we appreciate that. And not only the Public Works Department, but we have Parks and Recreation staff who helped to clear the community center facility in Mission Square. And then obviously our police department and the emergency response. So I'm always grateful to everybody who is willing to be out and brave the elements at times like this and help keep our residents safe. So our thanks to everybody. Lots of exciting things happening kind of on the development front. So we aren't going to have time to catch our breath. I'll just give you a little bit of a warning. But some exciting things happening and I think coming forward in the next several months. So that will be fun to talk about and think about for our community. You may remember that we awarded a contract for phase 1 of the update of the zoning code a couple of months ago, and we're getting ready to sort of kick that off in early February. So we'll be sending an email to you all tomorrow to look at a couple of date options for a joint planning commission city council meeting to just get that project underway. I wanted to congratulate Stephanie for celebrating her 1-year anniversary with the city of Mission as of last week. I think you did. No, you were here for some big snowstorms last year too, but and then I had an opportunity to be over at the Lanes before the holidays doing some work on a story in the Mission magazine. And I think they're anticipating sometime in the next month or two doing their official ribbon cutting and opening and tour. So it's a good looking facility and they're excited to really start to kind of show that off. So I think that's all I have for now, unless anybody else has. Penn, do you have anything? Nope. Okay, thanks.
All right. Yes.
Quick question, in the discussions that we're going to have on zoning, will we be looking at the form-based code again?
All right. It is now 7:03 PM and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Community Development Committee. Again, this video will be made public on our website at missionks.org. Thank you.
Does anybody need a break for any reason? No? All right. It is now 7:04 PM and I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Folks, please call the roll.
Hayden Tomposi.
Here?
Ryard.
Here.
Loudon.
Here.
Spring. Here. Schmidt.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on our agenda tonight? Please note, public comments are limited to 3 minutes. There's nobody in person. Is there anyone online? No. All right, we will close public comments. We do not have any public presentations this evening. Therefore, we will now move into our action items. Action item 1, acceptance of the December 10th, 2024 Finance and Administration Committee minutes from Robin Folks.
Thank you. Draft minutes of the December 10th Finance and Administration Committee meeting were included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Are there any comments on the minutes? Nope.
Council consent.
Consent it is. Let's see. Our next action item this evening is for consideration of a resolution calling a public hearing for the Mission Mart CID from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. So we heard a presentation in December from Sunflower Development Group about their plans to acquire the Mission Mart Shopping Center and their request to create a community improvement district that would impose an additional 1% retailer sales tax to help make about $3.5 million worth of upgrades and improvements to that shopping center. This is the first sort of administrative statutorily required step in order to consider. So the developer has now submitted their formal CID petition. And so we need to call a public hearing and work through that process. And so this resolution simply sets that public hearing date for your February 19th city council meeting. Does not commit you to creation of the community improvement district or anything else. So this is truly sort of an administrative housekeeping step at this point.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the group? No?
I just have a comment. I'm really excited about this. I know that we don't get a lot of public comment, but I desperately want folks to come and share their thoughts on this. I think it's a big win for the community if we can get it done. And so I think that we should all share it as much as we can to our wards and make sure that we get folks out and showing support if they've got it and questions if they have those too.
Kind of why I'm leaning towards non-consent, so it can be out there. Well, I guess it's a public hearing, so.
This one is not. This one is so next
the
week we would
resolution to
adopt the
establish it.
resolution
So,
to
yeah,
set the
sorry.
public hearing.
So
So-
regular,
Yeah, just
Agenda.
to like put it out there. I don't know.
More times hearing it is good, probably.
okay,
Okay, regular agenda it is.
that's great. Our third action item this evening is for consideration of governing body compensation, also from Laura Smith.
Thank you. I wanted to call former council member Thomas and thank her for reminding us a couple of years ago that in our ordinance, it says that we will review council compensation at the first meeting in January each year. You may recall that a couple of years ago, we kind of started into this discussion about the fact that council compensation had not been adjusted since 2002. I did not include kind of previous survey data that we've presented about what other city councils throughout Johnson County or the metro are making, but it varies widely. For example, the city of Prairie Village, they are compensated at $100 a year. Not even that. And so really it varies widely. Sometimes it follows more perhaps population or size of the community, not always. And so it really becomes just what is the community's philosophy and approach to it. But I think the conversations that we had previously were recognizing that the amount of time and effort that you all spend in meetings, preparing for meetings, representing the community at regional events, attending ribbon cuttings, whatever that may be, we're not going to come up with a compensation structure that will be reflective of the amount of time that you spend. But that perhaps if we could come up with a way to adjust compensation that was predictable and sort of made some sense, that we might have an opportunity to lower what might be a barrier for some, whether that be related to transportation expenses, childcare expenses, getting the things that you might need to perform all of those other duties. And so we talked about several options, and I think finally we landed on, and the council passed a resolution in January of 2023 that said we would adjust council compensation annually by the percentage, merit increase percentage that equated to that applied for all full-time employees in the annual evaluation process in the meets expectations category. So we don't have to argue about whether or not you're rating yourselves as outstanding or underperforming. We put you in that middle category. And so included in the action item was the adjustments that we've made since January of 2023. So when we started, the mayor's annual salary was $12,000. Council salary was $4,200. In 2023, that was a 6% increase, 4.5% increase last year. It would be a 4% increase for 2025, bringing the mayor's salary to $13,824 and council salary to $4,838. So again, reasonable, I think, incremental increases. If that's acceptable, if the provisions of the ordinance that was adopted in 2023 are still acceptable to the council, it doesn't require any additional action. That would just be an automatic increase that would be reflected in your January payroll. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Laura. Do we have any questions or comments? I have just one comment. I think it's always a little optically challenging to be sitting up here voting on a potential pay increase for yourself. So I actually really like that it is just tied to a percentage increase that's consistent with the rest of the city. I think it just takes a lot of the burden and some of the challenges of, having to kind of judge whether or not our efforts are worth an increase or not. So I appreciate the simplicity of it.
And I will say, I think I did not mention, or maybe it did in the action item. So a council member at any point has the option to decline or return their salary. If you're not interested in receiving that salary, can submit that in writing to us and we will handle that accordingly. Okay.
There are no other comments. Can I get a recommendation?
Actually, we don't need any.
Oh, we don't need one. It just happens.
Yep, it just happens.
Okay. Great.
Only if you wanted to change something did we need.
Does
to mention.
anyone want to change anything then? No? Okay. Our final, did I skip something? No. Our final action item this evening is for consideration of an ordinance expanding enforcement authority for community service officers from Kirk Lane.
You want to tag team this or you want to start? Okay. Well, I'll go quickly. The chief is out of town, so he asked, I still can't not call you Captain Lane. I know that's not right. This is
It's okay.
Deputy
Call me whatever.
Major Lane. What the amendments to the ordinances here will do is give our community service officers, which is a position that was created several years ago. We transitioned when we absorbed Northeast Animal Control and we brought animal control in-house. We looked at expanding the role and responsibility of those community service officers to do things like child seat installations, fingerprinting, some of the walk-in things, as well as the animal control responsibilities. That has worked well. And as we look at trying to think about opportunities to expand that and continue to relieve our commission law enforcement personnel of their responsibilities and the time that they spend responding to other calls, particularly in an environment where we are not fully staffed and struggle to be fully staffed. We wanted to look at expanding that authority so that the community service officers could take on the responsibility of things like issuing a parking citation or a fire lane parking violation, a handicap parking violation, in addition to their authority that they had currently under our ordinances to issue citations related to animal control offenses. This was also driven in part because we have had, and this is cyclical, on Johnson Drive, we had some issues with complaints about parking and particularly business to business complaints. So employees from one business were parking in front of the business. That tends to happen. It's moved up and down that corridor for several years. I would anticipate that would continue, but Officer Chuddick, who many of you know, is assigned to traffic enforcement on the motorcycle. I think it was in early December, walked the downtown business corridor, talked with all of the business owners, handed out a letter, really just trying to get a sense of the issues and trying to resolve that. You may recall all of the public parking in front of the businesses is 2 hours. And so the challenge is for us to have someone who can either record on a body camera or in some fashion go back and track how long those vehicles are parked there. So expanding the CSO authority really gives us that additional resource. I think it's a great way to be responsive to our business community and some of the issues that we've had there. And I would be happy to let the major explain anything else that he thinks is relevant here.
No, I think she hit it on the nose. I think we saw an uptick in the fall with parking complaints. And it's one of those things that being short-staffed with the officers of getting the attention to the public that we need over on the parking problems is just having someone there who can spend more time and another available body out there to help with. So it just will help our service levels as we move forward and try to get our staffing up. But it'll add some relief on our patrol officers who can't always spend that amount of time waiting for that parking time to expire. Any questions?
Questions or comments from the group?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to consent.
What was that?
Move to consent.
Consent.
yeah.
Sounds good. We do not have any discussion items tonight. Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for us?
I don't think a department update. I know I've talked in my agenda reviews with the committee chair and vice chair that any item related to the block TIF application and the block project at the old JCPenney call center was sort of conspicuously absent from your agenda this evening. All that means is the holidays kind of threw a very large monkey wrench into the work that they have been doing following the last conversation that they had with you all. And so we anticipate reopening the public hearing at next week's meeting, taking any comment, but then we will likely continue that. I think I can tell you what they have communicated to me is that the message has been delivered loud and clear, that the council wants to see a greater investment in sustainability for the project. We have actually, since that meeting, sort of engaged our own sustainability consultant, which I think is going to be beneficial for us on a lot of fronts, including our evaluation of the 2024 energy efficiency codes later this year. And as we look at the sustainability of projects and requests for incentives, being able to sort through LEED versus green globes versus what do we really want to mandate if we're looking at energy efficiency of the building, I think it's going to be really helpful and important. So we have a financial consultant, we have our bond counsel. I think if this is a value and a priority for our council and our community, I think it makes sense for us to make sure we have somebody who can really help walk us through that. So they have connected with our consultant. They're using a sustainability consultant as well, but just trying to make sure that we're all speaking the same language and understanding that. And so I would hope I have a follow-up call tomorrow morning to kind of see what additional progress they've made. So that project is continuing to move forward and they are understanding what the council would like to see in that. So we'll hope to be able to provide a more comprehensive update, maybe as soon as the council meeting next week.
One thing I'd like, if we're looking at the whole lens under sustainability, as we continue moving with these projects, if you want to look at where your biggest bang for your buck on sustainable features, we would start looking at pervious parking in all these. The stormwater runoff is a big environmental concern, and we continue to add projects with no consideration of pervious parking issues. We've had opportunity, and it just seems like I would like something for the record that says, we're going to start looking at the parking issue as a big sustainability feature that needs to be addressed.
Thought I saw one other. No? Okay. There are no other comments or questions from anyone. It is now 7:20 p.m. And if there's no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee.